Something came up for me around vulnerability that seems to tie into a lot of what we've been talking about yesterday. That we use our mind to create boxes, to make judgments, to define things, define ourselves, of course, and the world. And that gives us a sense of kind of security. And that can be very subtle, that can be very subconscious, it doesn't have to be loud. And so then this silence that we're all craving for is the willingness to actually be without these walls, to be without definitions, to be without a structure, without knowing how big something is or how long it will take or where am I? Where am I in relation to where everybody else is? How am I showing up? Am I showing up well? Am I saying the right things? Do I look the right way? And it's a beautiful power of mind that actually does help us survive. You need that at a very fundamental level just to survive. But then it turns into a kind of habitual self-protection, a way to protect us from the vulnerability of not knowing, of really having no definition. And that's the challenge of silence, that we all crave it so much. And yet it seems like we have to sacrifice our self-protection in order to directly meet it, to really dissolve into silence. And yet, in the direct experience of it, in actually meeting silence, in actually being willing to go for even just a millisecond, not some length of time, because that would just be another mental structure to say I need to be silent for some period, but just this instant, to be willing to not know anything. And because of the subtlety, you have to be willing to even not know what you do know. to just say, okay, wait a minute, there's some anxiety here or some tension here where maybe there's some protection going on that I'm not even aware of. And what if I don't even know that? To directly experience absolute not knowing, absolute no boundaries, no beginnings, no ends, no walls, no ceilings, no floors. And in that means whatever you are keeping out with your definitions, with your limits, has to flood in. And whatever you are holding in, holding back, has to come out. And so to see that maybe I know for me it's always been neediness for love. Just absolute total neediness for love. I need love. But then I can't show that, because if I show that, people won't love me. So I have to be a little sort of stoic and I have to hold myself in. And that sets up this never-ending kind of separation. Whereas in the willingness to actually have no boundaries and no separation, then this neediness for love can be here. And in fully opening to neediness for love, oh my God, it's like I realize my whole life is about love. My whole life is all about love. And it felt like I've always wanted it. I always want it. But it's like, if you had no love, that desire for love wouldn't be there either. It's love that desires love. Isn't it? It's so loving for me to want you to love me. It's like, I want you to love me. That's very loving. It's loving if you open to the rawness of it. But if you hide it and then try to strategize and figure out a way to do it or change the way that you behave to get it, then it's manipulative and it's sticky and it's not vulnerable. And love is extremely vulnerable. At least in the feeling of it. Love itself, not vulnerable at all. Indestructible. So maybe for you it's not neediness for love, it's something else. But it will be the same structure. That if you actually open to this need or this fear or this anger, you'll find that it comes from something deeper. That the anger about not being in control comes from the bliss of not being in control. And it comes from the power of what we can control. So then the silence becomes a kind of solvent. This is something Eli said that I've just always loved. Is that silence is a solvent. It dissolves everything. And that since most of what we bring with us into these retreats, into these meetings is, a sort of garbage bag full of what's wrong with the world and what's wrong with me, that to let it all dissolve, why not? Check and see what you're holding on to. It could be extremely past its use-by date by now. In which case, why hold on to it? So then to let everything dissolve in silence, in not knowing. And the willingness to meet what's here. So it's not a strategy, it's a discovery. Someone said to me actually just yesterday in an email that they've discovered that sadness and love seem to be not separate. Because I can see the same thing, that they open to the sadness and just get flooded with love. And that when they open to love, sadness comes with it. And that's the truth. That's what it means to live a human life, is to open to everything. So that rejecting sadness, you're rejecting love. Rejecting fear, you're rejecting yourself. Rejecting anger, you are cutting off your power. So everybody says, I want to be myself, or I want to meet myself, or I want to discover myself. But I don't want these parts of myself, so. But that is the suffering. That is the separation. The imagined separation. And in the end, since this is all happening in our heads, it's really like fighting with the air. It's really like chopping up the air in this room in your head and then trying to hold it back. Then you see nothing's really happening. You haven't actually chopped anything up. You haven't rejected anything. All you've done is had a thought and clenched your stomach. That's what I realized in one moment a few months ago, that everybody's walking around imagining that they're doing something, imagining that they're suffering and rejecting themselves, but really nothing's actually happening. Everyone's just walking around with clenched stomachs. So what could happen if you started to open your stomach? What could happen if you invite this opening into the physical, into the mental, into the emotional, and even into the circumstantial, because we've heard this weekend how it's all connected. That the withdrawal internally can lead to a withdrawal externally. And then we mix up the two. I know for me, before meeting my teacher, it was really withdrawal from the world. I was very angry at the world and feeling a victim of it, and I rejected it. And I was very dysfunctional, and I really found it hard to work a job. I found it really hard to do anything really. I remember I was in Queensland, and I had to get a job, and at SeaWorld they were advertising for people to work at SeaWorld and Dreamworld, and I just thought, oh my God, this is perfect for me. And I went for this interview, and it was like there were 30 people in this room. It was like a group interview, and they made each person stand up and introduce yourselves and say why you wanted to work there, which is kind of what we do here, but it was a little different because you could see everyone was getting up with this big smile and big energy saying, "Hi, I'm whoever," and I was depressed and anxious. And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Even though that's actually my fixation, is to do that. And so I sort of got up and said, "Hi, I'm Jared," And of course I never got a call back. So that you can see that the internal struggle just gets projected outwards. And then you can use that as evidence. That's the proof that I'm a failure. But which happened first? The feeling of being a failure or the failure outside? And that's why when we want love and happiness and freedom and peace on the outside, we have to first start on the inside. And so it's beautiful to use the external as a signal of what do I want. Absolute peace, absolute freedom, love, clarity, intelligence. Beautiful. So then we start here. And it's just a paradox to the mind that in order to have peace, you have to accept the war. You have to stop fighting with the war. Because it doesn't matter what you're fighting. If you're fighting, you're not at peace. So then what does it take to be at peace in the midst of this madness? And that's for you to discover for yourself. What does it take for you?
So a metaphor came to my mind. When my kids were a bit younger, they thought it was really hilarious when they're on their bicycles, for someone to throw a stick in the spokes to stop everything. And it's super dangerous. And as a parent, it was horrifying. But they loved it. There's something so interrupting and... So yesterday, in your friendly, ruthless way, you threw a stick into a spoke of my whinging habit. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Again.
Yes.
And, my tantruming at God, my arguing with God relentlessly, like, why is it like this? Like, and then just recognizing how ridiculous to argue with God, like I know better than God.
Yes.
Like, it's just crazy.
Yes.
And so that samsaric spoke, is broken for a moment, and then there's this diving into this throbbing silence, this is kind of, it's deafening silence actually, because it's so exquisitely alive, and it's and it was short-circuited relatively quickly this time, that it was just a mind fuck, really. And when I'm back here, there is no judgment actually. It is just light. It is difficult, but and then I went on another little trip about, well, I'm a very privileged person. I'm in a safe country. I've got resources. I'm loved. And watching myself go down that rabbit hole of, if I'm so privileged, then I should be, there's an allegiance with the suffering. And then recognising that just, again, adds to that. And how do I know how to do anything with that? I mean, how can I judge that? I mean, it's just crazy. But it's crazy.
Also, just you can see that actually, because of your privilege, that's all the more reason you should be happy.
Absolutely. And that was striking, actually.
Yes.
Like, when that kind of hit me, I was like, whoa, what an abuse of privilege.
Yes.
Complete abuse of privilege.
Yes.
When I can be in a position to, because I am so lucky to, and have people that speak this language, to support you, to stand up and say no to that, end it with me.
Yes.
And let the silence hold that. Yes. It was like, so I was thinking, the moon last night was exquisite, and I was really struck by that. But then there was this thing, well, how am I to know the difference between the horror of genocide and the rising of the moon? Like, it was like to me, there was in that moment, there was no differentiation between the two. It was just life living it. And it was really difficult. My mind cannot understand that. I cannot get a handle on that. Yes. But the two were just exactly the same in that split moment.
Yes.
And I still find I still want to go into tantrum. Like, no, no. But it's, again, I'm arguing with God. Like, who am I to argue with God?
Yes.
But even the patience of love to let that be argued, like, even that is allowed. And so it's like this deepening allowance and this thrumming silence and thank you. And
it's beautiful.
Like, I always come back, there's these three prayers that, to me, the fundamental, and I read this somewhere. And the first one is help.
Yes.
The second one is wow. And the last one is thank you. And that's it.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for putting a big stick in my spoke.
I'm so glad.
And thank you for being a friendly, relentless person.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
That was really important for me to have that gentle insistence, and because I beat myself up so much, and to have someone just gently do that was so beautiful, and like honey flowing into a place that needed to go. So I really thank you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I don't always get it right, but I'm so glad.
Say lots of good stuff. You radiate beautiful.
And so do you. This is the gift. That it's like really is a candle lighting another candle.
Yeah.
And it's really the same heart and the same love and the same intelligence that just gets awoken by being in each other's presence. So what you just shared, I think, benefited everyone in this room. So glad.
Yeah, and to me, it's that never-endingness of it. Like, you have to have the spoke in the wheel poked in frequently, because it's so subtle. Like, I didn't even know that was going on. I did, but it's like, oh, God, you know.
Yes, that's right.
So that's why we show up here.
That's right. And that's why I'm still at the feet of my teacher and still inquiring every day.
Yes.
You know, that this inquiry I brought this morning of vulnerability is alive for me.
Yeah.
And it feels never-endingly deepening.
Yeah.
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 And why not? What else am I going to do?
No, it's kind of fun too.
It is, because there's this mischievous mind and habit of you know, going into a delusion and into a fight as if that's going to end the fight. If I fight more, it'll end the fight.
Yeah.
And so, there's something else that has to be kind of more vigilant to say, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
I'm so glad.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Papaji said that, you know, if you're asleep in bed and you have a dream, and in this dream there's a thief and there's a monk and there's an enlightened man and an unenlightened man, when you wake up, what's the difference between any of them? And that's really what I get from Kelly's report about the moon and the genocide. Because it's all happening inside this mind of God, let's say. It doesn't mean that if something's happening right there in front of you and you have the power to affect it, that you don't do it, because you naturally would. You naturally would. You know, just because it's a dream. That was also what Ramana said to Papaji. Papaji's family was in the north when the partition was happening in India, Pakistan, and his family were in grave danger. They were Hindus in a new Muslim country, and there were thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people actually being killed in that time during really violent fighting. And Ramana said to him, I heard your parents and your family are up in the north. And he said, yes, but it's all just a dream. They're my dream family. I just want to sit here at your feet. And he said, well, if it's just a dream, why don't you go and save them? And that's also one of the points I want to make about this is not a way of wiping out the world as if it's pointless, it's all just a dream, don't worry about it, forget about it. Because it's really the opposite. For me, before meeting my teacher, the world was a challenge and I just wanted to get away from it. And in fact, I used to have dreams of becoming a Zen monk. That's what I thought was the ultimate, was just shave my head, put the robes on, go into the mountains and say goodbye to the world and just meditate all day. But actually what I discovered was that when you wake up and realize this is all just a dream, you are now free to function in the world in a very beautiful, free way. Doesn't mean you can fly. We can't fly. It doesn't mean you have control over the dream. The dream still has its own rules that we have to abide by. One of them is gravity. But you play in it. You play in it to the degree that you can and with whatever skills you have. And enjoy it. Give it everything you got, actually. Why not? And there's no rules about what that is. I mean, when I started teaching, Eli was really worried about me going into the teaching role, because a lot of people wake up and say, okay, right now I'm going to go start teaching, because that's kind of a natural movement and also an egoic movement. And he would ask me about my other job. I was helping to run this family business involved in water treatment, in agriculture. And he would always ask me, how's the water treatment business going? And he would always encourage me to keep pursuing it and to show up fully. And it was just a useful, beautiful teaching that Eli gave me, amongst many. Yes.
I just want to go and talk about showing up fully within the workplace.
Yes.
Because I woke up at 2:30 in the morning going, oh, it's Monday, I've got 43 things to do, and I've got my tick list, and I better get started, and I'll start, doing work at 5 a.m. And then I went, whoa, I think it's Sunday. I've got oh my God, I've got a whole day of meditation, and then it was like, whoa, I could choose what I do. And then I went, oh yeah, but I still need to eat, and the family needs to eat. And then it was like, oh, there's the other 40 list. I could quickly get that done because I've got to be here at 10:20, and I could probably get all these done before I get here. And then my husband said to me, he goes, be quiet.
Oh, wow.
And so he went off. And so then I went, right, I'm not moving. And then and my brain went, well, if you're not going to move, there's a better room over there. You should be in the sun. And I went, no, I'm not moving. And then I just laid on the ground in the middle of the house. And I was sitting there going, I am going to be still. And then I just was there. And I go, I don't care if the hair tongue burns the entire table. I'm going to be still. I'm not moving. And then I could smell it burning. And I'm going, oh, I'm not moving. And then I kind of started sinking. And I go, oh, and then I was still. And then I sang, and then I sang more, and then I went, okay, well, now that I'm still, I can turn the hair tongue off. And then I went, okay, I'm only going to choose from this space of stillness what to do. So then I started breathing, and then I just went, okay, I'm going to go shopping. Because I don't want to just today end and I go back to work.
Good.
And I get back in my head and I'm just a person who ticks boxes all day, that's all.
Yeah.
I'm just too busy. And then, so I thought I need to be still while doing the everyday. So that was really good. And I started brushing my teeth differently. And then I started shopping differently. And then, I was just present. And so, I didn't get as much ticked off, but it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I just want to hold that for tomorrow as well.
So beautiful. This is real. This is how it works.
Yeah.
That moment of lying in the middle of the room, it's like that's what it takes. That's where something deeper than the usual comes up and says no. And that's how we have to push ourselves. It's like we deny ourselves for so long that eventually it's like something drastic has to happen. Really, it's like you put the stick in the spokes of your own thing, which is what's needed. I've had many moments like that. I said enough is enough. Oh, it's beautiful music, isn't it? So it's so confirming. That's not even a question. That was a report. That whole thing is a report. It's such good news, and something shifted for you for your shopping and cleaning your teeth. That's real. That's what happens, that now it's coming out of the stillness. And if you don't get everything done, so what? You've got to take care of yourself. It's like if you're just ticking boxes, what's the point? So first you take care of yourself. and then you tick boxes as you need.
And I suppose the question is, when you're in that space of stillness, there's clarity in what's the priority?
Yes, but the clarity comes from somewhere deeper. It's not a mental thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Because I noticed you were saying you've been really busy.
Yes.
But I loved how you said once you start controlling, then it doesn't work.
Yes, actually, it requires no effort.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Yes, it's effortless.
Yeah.
But you know it. It's not you want it, but you also know it because you recognize it. It's like something in that you recognize to be true.
Yeah, because the other way is insane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you're so lucky. I mean, you also have a husband who's a teacher.
Yeah. And my son.
And your son. So lucky.
Yeah. No, they thought it was hilarious. I wasn't meant to speak at home. Yeah. So they did everything they could to get me to talk.
Oh, even better. That's great. They tested you.
Oh, yeah,
Did
they
you
test me
pass?
all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so then you show them the possibility of this depth to you, this depth of intelligence and capacity to love and capacity to do what you need to do without making an effort. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. There's something about this distrust, that we have in ourselves, that if I don't make an effort, nothing will get done. That's what we feel. And I don't want to be too spiritual about it. It's not really my thing. But it is a mystery how much gets done without effort. And real things, concrete things, without thinking about it and trying to figure it out. But there has to be a willingness to show up for yourself, to show up for the world. So the trick is you have to say yes when there's a deep yes, but there might be a contraction. So there might be that seems hard, or I might embarrass myself, or that's really putting me out of the box, or putting me, putting my head in the firing line. But if the deeper yes is there, then it's actually more effortless to say yes to the deeper yes than to contract and reject and hide, and because you're actually fighting against your deeper movement. I can tell you that teaching was terrifying for me. Sitting in front of people to talk about the truth, oh my God. It's like, who am I to talk about the truth? What the hell do I know? And you feel supported by these beautiful people next to you, and you feel intimidated. It's like... And yet I knew that was the egoic protection, and that's not what my life was about anyway. And I knew there was a deeper yes to speak about the truth. There was a deeper yes to love, and that this was, for me, love in action. And so then I had to say yes, even though there was fear, even though there was terror even. And not just the possibility of failure, but even failure itself. There were times I had a meeting that I was really off. I don't know, maybe something was going on for me. And it was not a good meeting. And afterwards I just felt all this shame and questioning whether I should be teaching. And I just said, yes, okay. Failed. And again, there was this immediate recognition that I'm not in control, and that I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea what happened. And that all I can do is keep saying yes to something deeper. And it meant that an openness that if I'm really not meant to teach, then I won't really. And I was very kind of listening out for the signals. And there was at one point I quit, and I quit in the morning. I was in the middle of a retreat, and this was a pivotal moment for me. I sort of quit everything, which reminds me of what you shared. And I went into the session in the retreat, and it was in the middle of the retreat. For some reason, person after person got up and said, "I just want to thank you for the role that you've played." And I could just see the joke of it all, see that I have no control over this and I have no choice really. So did you have your hand up? Yes, please.
I said at the beginning, I'm not sure why I'm here.
Yes.
I had lots of things coming up the last 2 days where I thought, I'm through with. This is in the past, and it's not me anymore. I realized that's not true. I'm usually a trooper. Something happens, and I troop on. This is here, I'll give it 5 minutes, I'll give it a day, and that's it. Cut off. It's not that easy, because there are times when those things come up again. And then not allowing them to give them the time to actually be through with them. But this morning I realized I actually had times where I had to go into that silent place to actually be able to get out of a situation, not making it worse than it actually is. There was a good realization, because I think that's why I probably came here too, to acknowledge that I'm able to step out of everything.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it was always in very extreme situations I did that.
Yes.
And I'm not very good integrating it in my everyday normal life.
Yes.
With being a trooper, and it comes ticking boxes too. I did this, I have to do that. Don't stop, because there's another 10 boxes to tick.
Yes. Yes.
And to allow myself to step out of this hamster wheel is really hard to do sometimes.
Yes, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it does,
It's
but
special.
at the same time, it's always in the back of the head. But if I don't do this now, if I don't step out of this cycle, then I've got that wall, that huge thing I have to tick off afterwards.
So then you tick off all the boxes until you die.
Yeah, I know, and it's not very promising.
So for me, I had a very similar thing. For me, it was called efficiency, and it was about always getting the job done and getting it done quickly and sorting it all out so there's no problem, and then I can go to the next one.
That's my German heritage. That's
Yes.
how Germans work. To be efficient.
Yes.
If you're not efficient,
Yes.
you're not good.
Yes.
There's something wrong with you.
Yes.
Leaving all that behind, coming to Australia was a conscious decision to make, and I love it to be here, but I sometimes feel very alienated because I've got that efficiency in me.
Yes.
And people just go, no worries, mate. And I think, how can you not worry? Like, she'll be all right, mate.
Yes.
I wish I could be more like that sometimes. And another thing which came up for me was I built up walls because there was a lot of loss. Not in the manner that people passed away, but it is a loss to step out of everything, you know. Coming to a beautiful country, but not knowing anyone. And I also realized what I dearly miss is that in intimacy, being with people who just know me. And I think I know a lot of people here, but it's never gone deep. It's too hard sometimes to explain everything and to put the stories out there and where do I come from? Where do I want to go? I think that's something which really, really bothered me the last few years, but I'm not able to acknowledge it. I'll just drop on.
Yes.
Because that's what you do.
Yes. Which is so funny because trooping on is being on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's actually part of what we're here for. It's actually this deep vulnerability and exposure of our secret hidden needs and desires and what we want and what we're afraid of. And actually then we see people get up and share and we recognize ourselves.
And it was like, this took me a bit to sit here now in this chair, and I'm not that comfortable.
Yes.
But yeah.
But that's it. So then just in this weekend that many people have shared in a way that is deeper than most people go their whole lives. So even just here you've exposed something deep about yourself and been vulnerable, and it's actually deeper than your story. It's beautiful to share stories, really.
I think stories, I know there is a core which we just are, like that's how we come into this world, that's how we go. But I've got the belief that the stories of our life also form us, not just in a negative way,
Yes.
also in a positive way.
Yes.
The experiences we have make what we are, if that makes sense.
Yes, they make what we are in this world as an individual, and that's beautiful. And part of telling stories to each other is how we learn from each other and we feel empathy, and how we also see ourselves in the other person. We see the same struggles, the same desires and the same fears. And sometimes sharing a story is so vulnerable that you can actually feel so comfortable and so seen that you can put all stories down for a moment and just be so open in the direct moment now. So just as you are.
I had moments in my life just being, like what you just described, but it's not, it usually just happened. It was never conscious.
Yes.
And there was a point this morning where lots of things came up and I was just really unhappy, or not unhappy, but sad. And it had to come out, and that's when I went, okay, just stop, be a blank canvas. And the happiness comes, the sadness goes. So it really helps. That's what I realized this morning too.
Beautiful. That is, you sort of said it as a side thing, but actually that's really huge. Because that willingness to stop in the midst of the suffering that opens up to happiness, you wait and see. If you consciously decide to stop your whole life can turn around. And what it does is it changes your story. It changes your story from one of suffering, from one of trauma and heartache and missing, and to one of, and then my story stopped and I was happy. So I'm very happy to hear that. And I would just say don't dismiss it as something small. That's our tendency. But you just described unhappiness or some version was up, and you consciously said stop, and then happiness arose. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. It seems like a small thing, but my God. To stop in the midst of the suffering, that's the possibility. And really it's an endless deepening. I mean, it starts off quite gross, where there's very loud and big thoughts, and we stop and it's like, oh, okay, nothing's going on. But it gets more and more and more subtle. And when you're willing to stop something that's kind of running at a subconscious level, it opens up. I can't even put words to it. What gets met. And that's intimacy with yourself. And vulnerability with yourself. Kathy. Like love and sadness and joy and grief. Also life and death. There's no life without death. But life is not what we think it is, and death is not what we think it is. Then we can welcome both in, as if we had some choice in that. And gratitude, first time I read something about impermanence. It's one of the Buddhists, 4 Noble Truths or something like that. And it just struck me. I was like, oh my God, everything in the world of form dies. It comes and it goes. And that included my body, but it also included my suffering. It also included everything. And it was one of my first awakenings. I walked down the street as if every breath was the most precious thing in the world, knowing that this could be my last breath. And then, which really for me, this efficiency thing, it really pushed me to a moment like Rebecca was describing, because this was all I was in Melbourne, and I was walking down the street just in bliss at each breath and each moment. And then the very next day I went for a walk, and I noticed myself it was like I was almost running with my walk. And I stopped for a second and thought, where am I going? I literally was just going for a walk, so I wasn't going anywhere. And I was like, why am I walking so fast? And realized that I was just trying to get each step done so I could get the next step done. And I was trying to get my walk done so I could get home. And it was like everything was just a means to the end, to the next one. And I was using this moment just to get to the next moment, doing it as fast as I can. And that never ended. And I had this moment, like Rebecca described, where I stopped and I started taking steps extremely slowly. And I did like one step would take like 5 or 6 seconds. And then I did another step and it was like 5 or 6 seconds, like that. And it was totally like sticking the stick in the spokes of my bike. It was like so weird for me to walk slowly like that. Not to mention I was on the promenade and there's all these other people. And I was like, oh my God, like the image of it all. I looked like a crazy person. And also, and then there was a part of me like, okay, good, you've done that for five minutes. You can stop now. And I was like, no, I'm not stopping. And I did it for like an hour and a half. And it was a profound moment for me of breaking the habit and breaking the momentum of this body-mind. And so then you think, well, what was it that stopped me? You know, what was it that said no? And that's the mystery. That's who knows what to call it, but I could say that's the part of me that wanted to be happy and free more than I wanted to use this moment to get to the next. That was more important than survival, more important than being efficient, more important than my image. Not sure about letting your house burn down. Yes. I don't recommend letting your house burn down. You can jump up and...
Take up space again. Hi, Jared.
Hi, nice to see you, Joe.
So I went home last night with my this commitment to get out of the way of joy, and really just stop that. And and as soon as I got in the car, I got this call about, look, could you go pick up Hannah, who's like driving all the way home from here, about half an hour to my house in Blackheath, and then another 15 minutes up the road, and you're on your way home. I'm like, oh, well, you're just up the road. But sure. Yes. Okay. Start of, this is not smooth and how I want it to be. I'm having my joy, thanks very much. Domestic driving, And then it just went from there. Like, I got the kid and got home and I'm tired and grumpy and hungry and where's my dinner? Dinner was made, but grumpy partner, man. And who then sort of ate very quickly and left and pretty much went to bed. That's fine. Domestic bliss, happy, joy. Yeah, it's fine. I'll just... myself, oh well, let's be quiet. I don't feel like sitting in silence. I'm going to watch a stupid movie on television and eat porridge. Why not? I'm not criticising anything. Okay, I'll just say yes. And then midnight, I'm writing this email about a job application I'm doing, and Parish gets up from one end of the house to the other, going to the loo. Hannah just threw up. Goes to the toilet, goes back to bed. So I'm like, oh, okay, yes, I'll clean up the vomit. Parish has gone, oh, I'm really not feeling good. Rolls over in the bed, goes to sleep. I'm like, oh, he's like, don't come near me. Okay, all right, Hannah's vomit's cleaned up, put you in a new bed. All right, I'll go to bed now. An hour later, light on. Okay, I'm up. Parish is snoring. Get all this stuff, clean all that. Okay, everyone's in my body's starting to go. All right. Okay, I'm being present. Joy, this is joy.
Joy.
An hour later, Mum! And like that was like every hour through the night. Like, get back into bed. I'm not comfortable. I'm not happy. And I was so uptight. But it was kind of, it was like, well, you said domestic. It just does not get any more domestic and kind of gross, you know. And I mean, it wasn't just coming out one end.
Yeah.
And I was just like, they're thinking, oh, I won't be able to go. I won't be able to come to retreat. I've done this before. I've had days when my kid was sick. I couldn't come to satsang. You know, and then I started going into, oh man, that was, okay. That day, Hannah was sick. I couldn't come to retreat with you. That was the day my mum died. And I was through that day holding space. It's like I can't be there physically, but I'll be in silence all day. I'll be present with her. Far out. Shit happens, you know, when I'm like, I don't want someone to die. I just breathe, you know. It's like, okay, well, you just be, okay. Body's uncomfortable. Kid's throwing up. Partner's, you know, checked out. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, sun's coming up. And then it was like the morning, and there's a little trick in here. I just want to catch myself because I can get into that state of kind of, I'm going to die. I think I'm going to die. The morning's never going to come. You know, it's the eternal, endless, bleak. There's nobody here. No one can save me. And then the morning comes and Parish is like, oh, I feel better now. I'll make you some breakfast. So, yeah, you know, you go to retreat. I'm like, can't, too tired. Yeah, yes, you can. Have a long shower, a cup of tea, and I'm thinking, playing tricks on me. Life is playing a trick on me right now.
Your mind is playing tricks on you.
It's hilarious.
Yes, it's beautiful. And how is it that right now you are smiling and shining and joyful and laughing? Tell me about that. How is that possible?
Well, I think what I've been hearing this morning is about it's done. Like there is no next thing.
That's right. Throw up, not throw up. What's the difference? Really?
And there is something in like, you know, I had this sense, like I without it being a big drama, but I get a lot of muscle pain, like it's just there. So I'm up, you know, and I'm tired and I'm cold and but I can hold her head while she's throwing up. There's nothing I can do, but I can hold her head and love is here. And where else would I be?
That's it.
Absolutely nowhere else. And my arm is strong enough and I can do that all night. And yeah, I'll have a sore arm.
Yeah. That's it.
But there's grace in that moment, but there's also that I hang out for, the sun comes up and someone's face is there to go, it's okay. And, you know, the hook in me is that's never going to happen. Like there's no grace, there's no...
Yeah, but it keeps happening.
It does.
So then, at some point, when the clouds cover the sun, you might remember the sun is still shining. You know, this is the old, when we humans were back in the day, thousands of years ago, we would worship the sun and the moon and the weather. And I think it was, you know, as the sun sets, everybody starts crying because the sun is dying.
Yeah, that's me.
Yes, and then the sun comes up in the morning, it's like, oh my God. And then we have parties and dance.
So, and that's the sobriety. Like I caught that. It's like oh my God.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
the evenness, and then what I just remembered again is that the quietness. There's one particular time, and I think we were sitting in opposite chairs, and you said, just stop right there and just be quiet. It was like it's different quality to what I hear when we talk about silence. It's just quiet.
Yeah.
And that's always present. It's like this sort of meta layer. Or I kept getting this image of, in cartoons, we're just when the two characters or these two dogs just start to get into a fight, and it's just a big scribble.
Yes.
And then it's all white around them. It's like that's all it is. It's just a scribble.
That's right. That's what I said once to someone. I said, life is always messy.
Right.
I said, but consciousness is untouched.
So that's what you're saying. There is nothing going on.
That's right. Nothing is happening.
Far out.
If you don't think about it, judge it, figure it out, reject it, decide what's good, what's not good, what I should be doing, what I shouldn't be doing, what I deserve. When that all disappears, there's just a mother showing up for her child who's sick. And the recognition that you've gone nights before without sleeping and you've survived. And you are right now the proof of that. You are shining, you are beautiful, you are happy, and you didn't sleep last night. That's the proof.
And the responsibility, a little bit like what Kelly was saying, this extraordinary privilege. I mean, here we are in the Blue Mountains in Australia, and we have a teacher for this many of us. And we have to wake up. We've got the opportunity, and consciousness is giving us a big slap.
Yeah.
I feel reckless in a way,
Good. Because it is. It's like we give ourselves so much rope.
Yeah.
We give our mind so much rope. And actually the responsibility is really huge.
Yeah.
We all have a responsibility to peace, to the truth. I know my teachers don't take it lightly at all.
No.
And over time I've gotten more ruthless in a way. And it's true, I've felt this time that this may be my last time coming to the mountains in a long time.
No.
We're not gonna let you.
Just, I can't say exactly why, but it feels like, Muhammad keeps coming to the mountain somehow. It's like I will come up here as often as I can. And it's like, it can't be me. It's not me. I'm not coming here to do your awakening. I'm not coming here to wake you up. It's that you have to wake up and use what's here. And whether it's a slap, if it's not a slap, if it's a sweet thing, that just means you have more responsibility to get something from it, to kind of go and get it. Everybody's waiting for a slap. I needed a slap, so I can't really talk. But so
Yeah, slap's the wrong analogy, because the connotation is abusive. Like we don't
Yes.
hit our children.
love slap.
It's actually speaking to someone as if they're intelligent.
I love what you just said. That's useful for me.
Yeah, the violence actually has to leave that metaphor.
Yes.
We need
Yes.
to mature past that.
Speaking intelligently and honestly without patronizing.
Mm.
Yeah.
You call that out.
Yeah. That's really good. And so that there's something in me felt, well, maybe that's, the threat of or the actual me not coming might be a teaching in and of itself, of the preciousness of this teaching. I appreciate what you said.
Yeah, well, I feel you showed up at a very specific time in my life, and that's just pure grace.
Mm. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's all grace. I'm so glad. Thank you, Joe. There's really nothing to do. Everything's here. It's just a willingness to tell the truth. Tell the truth about what's being avoided, but even deeper than that. Tell the truth about love. Tell the truth about peace. Tell the truth about your own presence, your own innocence, and then your own humanity. We're all looking for wholeness, we're all looking for acceptance. So then if you tell the truth about that deeply enough, you'll come to the conclusion that you have to accept yourself. And that acceptance is a kind of death in a way, because you have to let all the bad stuff in. You have to lose control and lose boundaries. But then there's a possibility to discover something that's so much more powerful and intelligent than the part of our minds that is deciding what's good and what's bad. It's something that's so much more adept at really knowing what's good and what's bad. It's really something that's already in control of this whole thing. And you are not separate to that intelligence. So that in surrendering to yourself, you're surrendering to that intelligence. And then you become a kind of a tool for truth. Become useful, I often say I feel very well used. No one wants to be used, certainly not by other people. And I agree with that. But to be used by life, to be used by love, then you get to put down everything. And just try to surf the wave, the best you can.
I'd like to use you a little bit.
Please.
Just what's been coming up since yesterday is some clarity around the justice trap of the 8. And, well, not only with justice, with everything, just realizing, oh my God, every time I'm caught trying to discuss something in my mind, I'm not here. So that was very clear. It's like, forget about it. Just find out here, But then the question I had was, so what's the trigger then? Because there is a trigger. If you are treating somebody nicely and you are not treating me nicely, there is a trigger, And so now I know, this doesn't work, like why, and blah, blah,
Beautiful.
But there is a trigger.
Very good.
And
so
can I just quick, because first, before it was like, some childhood trauma, whatever, but obviously I've done a million sessions and therapy for years and years, and, it feels like my inner child is really well loved, and, there's a trigger, and it's common in all 8, so,
yes.
some mechanism that, so can you help me there?
Yes. So we use the trigger to get the flavor, to give us a clue about what's being triggered. And so you mentioned just then, that let's say I'm treating someone nicely, I'm not treating you. That has a flavor of self-loathing. It has a flavor of I'm not good enough. It's projected outward so that you're treating them better than me, but that's the lens you're seeing it through. And so that's the direction in to see, is there some feeling here of not being good enough, of being unloved or unlovable. And it could be buried, and also what I see with you, knowing you so well, having kind of been with you on this journey for a while, is that you went from really being, having a very challenging life with addiction and other things to then, having a lot of pain, to awakening, and you've really embodied, you've found your way out of the jungle, and here you are in the world showing up and happy. And what's happening is, as I see it, is a certain kind of individuation, which is actually egoic in a sense. It's like finally, and this is ego strengthening, it's like you can be an individual, you can show up, you can work, you can be happy, you can raise your kids. And so that then with that individuation is a sort of ego strengthening that is then in conflict on some level with the ego transcendence. So that you're enjoying being happy. And that then opening to self-hatred kind of spoils the party a little bit.
Really?
Well, maybe.
It so feels that I'm so welcoming of the self-hatred. Like...
Beautiful. What I can say is that your willingness is there. There's no doubt about it. But that's the nature of the fixation. The nature of the fixation is to be on top somehow. And so then to not be awake, like to not be on top, to open to this feeling that's underneath. So it's like right now, so this isn't a conceptual kind of discussion, like right now, what do you feel internally?
I feel gratitude, deep gratitude.
Beautiful.
Excitement for life. There is some softness. There is some curiosity. There is love. And presence.
How deep is it?
It's everything. Do you think it's not deep enough?
No.
Oh.
So where did that thought come from?
Yeah, getting it right or something.
So if you're open to that, getting it right, wanting to get it right, or afraid that you're not going to get it right, or
I thought it was more around getting it right for you, because you are pointing at something that I'm not feeling or something.
Mm-hmm. But what's here right now? Because there's something's here.
Yeah. Yeah, just vulnerability.
So I feel completely vulnerable. Without trying to get to the other side.
It's just beautiful. It's very gentle.
Yes. But there's some pain here. You know, it's like I can feel it in your. It's not bad. It's not a negative. It's just pain.
Yeah.
And so if you let that pain kind of come up a little bit, like try to touch it and invite it, just to see what is it.
There's some tension here.
Yes.
Some constriction.
Yes. So enter into that area with your attention. Really, that's to find out what is it trying to say to you. Or what is it trying to say at all?
Not sure it feels like it's saying it's okay. But then I think it might.
Yeah, it's like the tension is really, the constriction is it is okay, but the restriction is saying something. It's holding on. It's afraid of something. You don't have to get it. You know, it's not like that. It's not a test.
No, but I'm here to inquire about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So then you see there's this tension and there's some pain. It could be old, it could be nonsensical, it could be surprising, who knows? It doesn't have to fit.
So see, I think this is where I trip myself, because I go, it's okay, it's actually okay. I can bear this, it's okay. I open, so I think that's where there's something missing.
Because that it's okay is a thought.
No, but there is really a sense in my entire being.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
I just open, I just bear it, it's okay. But
Yes.
I know what you're saying, that's why I'm inquiring.
Yes, it's a challenge, you know, because that's the nature of the eight fixation. It's really a challenge to be vulnerable in the sense of being incompetent or being weak, and so that the negative feelings inside, you either skip it to it's okay or project it outwards.
But it feels so vulnerable and soft. Like I can't believe how soft I am.
Yes,
like, you know.
I can feel your vulnerability.
You know.
Yes.
But it's like obviously.
But I think it's so subtle.
Yeah, that's
it's
why
just
I'm getting
very
you help.
subtle. Yeah.
Help me.
Yeah. I don't know that I can help you other than to tell the truth. in a way that it gets deeper and deeper each time. That the path to awakening is not really this kind of going from suffering to now everything's wonderful. It's actually this kind of reverse path where you have to go backwards through your suffering and even come to childhood stuff. Like for me, it gets more and more immature. Like I find a layer of like being a little baby. And so it's like it feels like some kind of pain. The flavor feels like self-hatred. And it's getting projected onto me as the authority, whether I'm treating you right or treating other people better. And so then to use that as a guide to see, okay, is there some feeling in me that I'm not good enough, or I'm worthless, or I'm unlovable, or there's something wrong with me?
But this could be here forever, couldn't it?
Yes, but where does that question come from? Where did that question come from?
Yeah, just trying to move away from...
That's it, really good. So then you see that's the way where our body minds are designed to move away from pain, right? That we move away from the fire, we move away from the noise. That's how we work. And that here, so the ego is designed to move away from this pain because it doesn't want to face it. The discovery is it's okay because it's not real. But if you're saying it's okay while still contracting, then some part of you does think it's real and does think it's not okay. That's very subconscious.
Say that again.
If it's still running and there's still a movement away from it, that means there's some part of you that does think it's real and does think it's not okay. That's the nature of it. That's how it works. It's like you might know it's okay, but some part of you is going, Both happen at the same time.
See, this is because I just assume, well, this body is a self-hatred body. It might hate itself forever, and all I have to do is when the contraction comes or the self-hatred comes, I just welcome it and feel it.
That's more of a strategy. This is really not a strategy. It's like without anything to hold on to. It's like, I don't know what it is for you. I know for me, I felt like disgusting. Like I felt like I was worse than dirt. And I had to actually go and meet that feeling and actually feel that I am worse than dirt and say yes to it. Not say it's okay. That's the thing, is like, if there's a snake in the road, you can't just look at the snake and say, wait a minute, I know this is a rope, it's okay. And then secretly feel a little bit of fear about the snake. You have to go up to the snake and touch it at the risk of being bitten.
It feels like I've done that so many times.
It's like, not about, but see, that's
self-hatred.
But this is a story because this has got nothing to do with the past. It's got nothing to do with how many times. It's got nothing to do with anything except right in this moment. So there's some story about you and how much work you've done and how much progress you've made. And that's really what I was referring to before when I said about the ego strengthening. And it's beautiful. Like we need time to individuate and be a strong individual. And we don't want to lose that. And I mean, that's not a mental thing, that's a subconscious internal thing. So it's like how to be individuated and strong and show up in the world and be happy, and to be completely humbled and I don't know, with no spiritual advancement, where you haven't gone anywhere and you haven't achieved anything. And just humbled by life, not saying I've gotten so far or I've done so much or anything like that. That's all a protection, that story itself. So it's like, what if you've made no spiritual progress?
Doesn't matter, I just want to be here.
Yes.
Fully. Yeah, that I give my life to.
Yes. So this, as you open like that and become vulnerable, some tears come up, and just follow that inwards. Follow that into your, wherever it's coming from, maybe from your belly.
There is some sadness about the hatred.
Yes. Yes. So, can you be fully sad? What if it's not okay? Can it just not be okay?
Yeah, it's almost like how is it possible to hate oneself so much?
Yes, that's right. Can you actually open to it? It's like so consuming, it's 100% self-hatred. It's not just a little bit.
It's just this screaming out for love and not knowing how to do it or how to feel it or
Yes.
how to get it or how to love.
Yes. Yes. So don't make it go away by saying it's okay, and actually let it not be okay. You say yes to this primal self-hatred and wanting love desperately and having no idea how to get it.
It's like going around in circles and making it worse and
Yes.
and then missing it more and then...
Yes. So there's an existential kind of frustration with that, and it's like almost like the black hole that's there. For you to stop trying to get it and just sit in this desire for it, desperation for it. Let yourself be desperate for love.
It's very tender.
Yes.
It's very alive. I can feel a lot of energy going.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a deeper okay.
That's right.
Yeah. I love you, John.
Oh, I love you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. If you're willing to keep going in that direction, to not entertain that thought of I've done enough. You know, it's like I've worked hard enough. It's okay where it is now, because it is, and it's true. But you're calling out for deeper.
Always.
So this is the way in. So then the thought, it's okay, it's a trap. If it's okay, then you're open to it. You're open to it not being okay. What if it's not okay? That's the entry point. That's the entry point to a deeper okay.
Because it's subtle, because it really feels okay.
Yes, that's right. And to me, it's like new in a way for you, and you're enjoying this okayness. You're enjoying your life. And so it's like, oh, well, why do I have to go into more not okayness? But that's just the way in. That's for a deeper okayness. And it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. You don't underestimate the degree of self-hatred that's hiding, and the degree of fear and whatever else it is, and anger. Don't underestimate it. And then you welcome this total, desperation for love, and having no idea how to get it, and having failed at getting it, and trying to get it, and making it worse. That's welcome to the human condition. So if you deny that with everything's good on top of it, it'll always show up. It'll make messes on the outside because it's still secretly playing out.
Yeah, it just feels like so much love. And I know it can get bigger, but it's like, how can it get bigger? Like, I never thought I was capable of loving like I do.
Yes.
I freaking love everybody, and life is so much. Like, how can it get bigger?
Yes. So then you invite these seemingly impossible kind of self-hatreds in, because that's part of the love. Let them all in, let it all in. There's a real honesty about this desperate for love. I talked about it this morning from my own experience. And so you keep letting it in,
I will.
No, I'm
For
so
sure.
glad. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. So I think we're back at 2:30. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So. Thank you, everyone. Beautiful meeting. Thank you.